Hi, folks, and welcome to My Mayor, episode 11. For over 20 weeks now, we've been enjoying getting to know the candidates through the My Mayor series, and I hope you've gotten value out of it and had as much fun as I have. This will be the last episode before the primary, but we certainly look forward to having more conversations with the remaining candidates after the primary. I've been thinking about having a guest host for a while. I've got to do it quite a bit, and we thought it'd be fun to give somebody else a chance. And who better to do that than someone who's held the job themselves? And so we were able to get a little time on the books with former Mayor Rick Baker. And so he'll be guest hosting some of the episodes today. And I look forward to those conversations. I know that they'll be, as everything that Mayor Baker does, thoughtful and fun. And I hope you enjoy them. And we'll see you again after the primary.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of My Mayor. I'm Rick Baker. I had the honor to be mayor of St. Petersburg from 2001 to 2010. And we are, this is a process of interviewing all of the mayoral candidates coming into the primary election in St. Petersburg in 2021. And now I have the great pleasure of being with Pete Boland, candidate for mayor, and bar owner and restaurant, I guess, Pete. And I was thinking about you on the way over. Do you ever hear of John Hickenlooper by any chance?
Yep.
You know of him. He was a bar owner in Denver. He ran for mayor, became mayor. He was mayor at the same time I was, so I knew him during that period of time. And then he became governor, and I think he might be a U.S. senator now. I'm not.
Yeah, I think so. They had a lot of changes out there in Colorado recent years. Things have been different. So,
they did.
So he should take some credit for that, I would think.
So you're following in his footsteps with the campaign.
Well, I just think that hospitality in particular, you deal with the public, and we're very much in the public eye, and you have to watch what you say. Republican, Democrat, Independent, left wing, right wing, everybody's money's still green. They all like to eat, and they all like to have a good time, and leading our organization is definitely a very prideful thing, and it's a lot of work, and I'm kind of the face of the place in both places, the Galley and Mary Margaret. So I think it's kind of set me in the right position to take some of these blows and slings and arrows and be out in the forefront of this. And I just love St. Pete so much, and feel compelled to do what I can to help.
Well, it's apparent you love St. Pete a lot from whenever I've seen you talk, and I have a lot of respect for business owners. I was one myself, and I am one myself, and I used to tell business folks when I talked to them that I got my MBA from Florida State, but I got my PhD the first time that I had to make payroll and I had no money in the bank.
Been there, done that. You have to figure things out. We sold a share or two. We wish we didn't. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. Well, tell me how the campaign. We're approaching the election here. We're in the election. People are voting today. And tell me how that is going for you. Tell me how you feel about it so far, and how are you doing?
Well, we're definitely feeling in this unique position of, I feel like we're kind of fighting against the two machines. We've got the traditional kind of Democrat machine here in town, and then I used to work at the yacht club. I was never a member of the yacht club, so I think we're fighting against some of the yacht club Republican machine a little bit. But I think that we're going to surprise a lot of people. We've got a lot of people that are really enthusiastic about our campaign. I think that what really invigorates me is when I meet people that I've never met before that tell me, hey, I voted for you, and my grandmother voted for you, and my brother, my sister, my neighbor did, and I have that stuff happen all the time. Or when I have someone call me up and tell me, hey, they saw my signs all over town, and it's really rewarding. It's a roller coaster, as you well know, but we're really proud of what we've done, and we feel like we've already achieved at least 2 of the 3 goals that we've had for this campaign, and now the third goal is moving from my 60 employees up to that 3,000 mark and see what we can do with that. But we're excited. Election day is rapidly approaching, and we're just going to keep chiseling away and do the best we can.
Having gone from about 60 employees to 3,000 myself, I can tell you it's a leap, but it's one that it takes you a little bit to get your arms around, but it's very doable thing. You may be too young for this, but when Disney World first opened, they had letters for their tickets. and if you wanted to go on the real Space Mountain or something like that, it was called an e-ticket ride. And I compare the mayor's campaign to e-ticket ride because it is a roller coaster.
Absolutely, it's crazy.
Well, today we're going to talk. This is really your show, so we're going to talk about 3 things. and they're all going to be things you choose to talk about. And what I'd like you to be thinking about, that people who are voting today, somebody may be sitting home thinking about voting right now as they're watching you. So what are the three things? I want to do it one at a time, but I want to talk about the three things that you think separate you, that you want to get across, or you want people to think before they vote, this is why you should vote for people, and this is why I should be your guy. What would those be? And start with one.
Well, I think if people sit back and they look at these three individual things and they ask themselves a question when they're going into the ballot box and or they're filling out their vote by mail ballot, I want them to first ask themselves, like, all right, who amongst these candidates loves St. Pete? Who loves this place? And not just that they like this about it, or they like that about it, or that they love being in power, or that they love people bringing them coffee in the morning or being a big shot or anything like that. I want to know, do you really love St. Pete? And I think that's something that bleeds through every part of my campaign. Our slogan has been St. Pete first from the beginning, and what we mean by that is not just to put the people above politics, and that's a big part of it. Is, I'm not in this for political ambition. I'm never going to seek further political office. Like, I've made that pledge, and I'll continue to say that. I'm not going to be someone that abandons this post for further political office or do something about the career. It needs to be about public service and someone that really wants to sacrifice for the interest of the public. Do they really love St. Pete? And in that love of St. Pete, are they going to push St. Pete first? That's my thing about making St. Pete the best. And when we talk about things like, I had a meeting with Chief Holloway this week, when we talk about things to do with policing, I want us to have the best police in the United States, not just to have a good police force that gets things done around here, but really sets a standard and leads the region and leads the state. I want us to have innovative solutions to things like attainable housing and just really push St. Pete first. And do they really love the city? And I think if you really went down and looked at this whole thing, I think the other candidates do have a love for St. Pete, but I think that passion for people above politics and beyond their party, I think that's going to be a difference maker. And that's something that if you really had that as a priority on your list, I think I would check that box ahead of all the other candidates myself.
I think it's the first person that said that, but I think it's a great approach. I always, I had a lot of people that didn't like what I did here or there or over there, but nobody ever questioned whether I love the city, and I think that is important for people to really have a passion for the city. So tell me a second reason people should be focusing on you. You have the love for the city. You've got the experience in your business. What's the second thing?
I think that second thing people should ask is, can whoever is the next mayor bring people together? We live in such a divisive time, and politics has taken over for people's religion in a lot of ways, that they're so entrenched in their position they can't see the other side of the stuff. And one of the things I always say is it takes the left wing and the right wing to make the American eagle fly. And I think it's a real tragic part of our current state of politics is this divisive nature. And I think we need to look at, can this next mayor bring people together to solve problems for our city, of having that servant's heart and being humble and being compromising when you need to be compromising. And sometimes you have to be uncompromising. You have to stand your ground on stuff. But I would want someone that can bring people together. And I've been castigated for being a moderate. I'm an unabashed, proud moderate. I just care about people and getting things done. And I don't really care if it's a Democratic idea or if it's from my side, a Republican idea or a Libertarian idea. I like to fancy myself a little bit of a Libertarian, but I'd want someone that can bring people together and solve problems, that doesn't care about who gets the credit, that cares about if it's in the best interest of the people. Does it put St. Pete first again? And you'll hear me say that a lot, especially as I know you've been following this race closely. But I think that's going to be an important part. We live in such a special place. We've got a lot of good things going for it, but politics has definitely prevented progress. And I'd like to bring in some fresh ideas, some fresh perspective, and be that fresh face and the voice of reason when it comes to common sense, and just really pushing some of that partisan politics and that nonsense aside, and like the vindictive nature of some of our politics today, especially as it relates to what's been going on in City Hall the last few years. I'd like to have someone that brings people together, and I think that I've proven that that's what I do. I've brought together an organization of 60 people, and if you follow along with my team, we've been through a lot in the last couple of years with relates to COVID and storms, and we got another big storm out there in the Atlantic now, and we just want someone that's going to put people first, and I think I've demonstrated demonstrated that time and time again by working with people, regardless of what their political affiliation is, and are they doing what's in the best interest of the people. And I think that if you look at my history and my track record and the things that I say and the things that I'll keep saying and the things that I'm about, you ask my family, my friends, my partners, they're going to tell you where I stand with this stuff. And I stand with really just common sense solutions and bringing people together. And that's what I'd like to do.
So tell me one idea, and maybe expand on it a little bit. One idea or thought of something that you would like to do specifically that you're gonna then go get people unified together to help you launch it. Give me an example of an idea.
Well, we look at some of the discord that we have, like in Tallahassee right now. I think that's a big thing where people can't get along with the governor, and they want to lob grenades at him, and then they get, upset when they hold their hand out and they don't put anything in there. I would not care about whatever those positions were. I want to bring home the bacon for St. Pete. Now, we lost a lot of money in this last session. St. Pete got the most items struck from the budget, and whether or not that's the governor's fault to me is irrelevant. We've got to do our part to bring people together and that stuff. It'd be working together with things like Red Tide and solving some of this COVID response now with the Delta variant, that we've got to kind of put our emotional party affiliations, our party politics aside to talk about common sense solutions. Like, we've got small children in our household. I tell you that it is not easy to make a 6-year-old wear a mask all day long, and that we have to have some practical solutions on this stuff about what we can actually do to move forward. What can the government actually do? And I think that we can find a lot of common ground on stuff that makes sense, that doesn't have to ring any red bell or blue bell for people.
So tell me a third reason as you're talking to the voters here of why you're the guy, why they should, because they got 8 people to choose from and everybody's got strengths. And tell me, you give me a couple, which are great. Give me another one last idea of that you'd like to say. This is why you should vote for me.
So the third one, I think, is about relative experience. I'm the only one that truly has executive experience amongst this field, that's started a company from ground up, that's built that company, that has an organization. I have mid-level managers. I have a hierarchy in my organization, and the buck's already stopped with me. Like, when we have a decision to make, that falls on my plate. I think that relative experience is important, and especially life experience. I'm someone who's gone through trouble in life. I've had to worry about making payroll before. I've struggled in my life of getting in trouble as a kid. My parents divorced. I've suffered death in my family. That we had to work really hard for what we have, and that's one of the things that I very much share with my lady, my love, Jessica. It's like, no one handed us anything. There's multiple ways to get there. That's okay if you had a leg up. There's more than one way to get there. But I think my relative experience of being that everyday person, of not being that career politician, not having gone to law school or gone to school for political science, or getting set up by my parents in that type of business, or just being that kind of career politician that's always out for that. I think that relative life experience, and especially being an executive, of being a businessman, like, when we did the COVID lockdowns last year, a lot of these politicians, they were able to still get their paycheck, and we didn't get to do that. That we had to make difficult decisions about people, and families were directly reliant on our decisions. And I think that stuff matters, and being that, at that top seat, I used to say it's lonely at the top, and I got a friend of mine that is a longtime business executive. He said it's not lonely at the top. He said it's hard at the top, and you'll have a lot of people that are there with you, but that it's difficult, but it's worth it at the end, and you just got to keep rolling with the punches and just keep trying to do the right thing. And that I learned an awful lot about being a boss. I started being a general manager all the way back in 2009, and I've been managing people since 2005. And it was a lot different once you get the big seat of being the owner and being the managing partner. And the buck stops here. And I think that experience really matters. And I don't like the idea of having a first-time boss, being a mayor of over 3,000 employees. So if you look at my track record and the way we are at the Galley and Mary Margaret's, then I think that would be, if that was something that was really important to you, then that would be another box that you could check along for Pete for St. Pete as being the best choice.
I'd probably say it's both hard and lonely at the top, but it's also I think very rewarding, because if you can drive things in a positive way, it's a great feeling. You mentioned about making St. Pete first, and I'm gonna which I love that. I could have written that myself, and I'm gonna give you my personal opinion on something, and then I'm not going to ask you to respond to it because it wouldn't be fair, and then I'm going to ask you to talk about something else. My personal feeling, and and by the way, everybody at the Rays organization knows this, is that if we're going to build a new stadium in our city, then the name of the team should not be Tampa. It should be St. Petersburg. Is that we are a major city, and why on earth would we allow somebody to name our baseball team after another city, which is what it is? And so I'm not going to ask you to respond to that because I'm not asking the other candidates.
There's a lot of movement towards that concession from the team. I had a nice talk with the Rays about that a couple weeks ago.
I've had those conversations in the last year myself, and I do believe that they are willing to move, but only if they're asked, I think. So I'd just plant that seed. Tell me other ways of making St. Pete first. Tell me other, you do say that a lot. I know you believe it. I believe it. That doesn't mean that we're not for anybody else. You can be for working with Tampa and Clearwater and Tallahassee and anybody else, but the job of the mayor, of course, is St. Pete. So tell me other ways that you would approach that would reflect your belief in making St. Pete first.
Well, I think when we look at things like this attainable housing crisis, I like to be kind of first in some innovative solutions with that. I'm a upzone kind of guy. I want to see that change, and I think we need to have that smart density, and that kind of starts with things like the building department, right? We need to have this super efficient development we need to have because we need to last for things like Hurricane Fred that's out there, and the threats of global sea level rise and everything else, and look at things like Surfside. So I'd like to be the first and quick to respond to that. Talk about things like policing. I want us to have the most agile, adept, friendliest, most well-trained, most well-compensated police force. That's kind of the envy of all other departments. I like to have that first of that next generation of stadiums when we talk about a new ballpark for the Tampa Bay Rays, the St. Pete Rays. I'd like to be first in that. I'd like to be first in walkability, not just for Florida, but for the Southeast United States. Make that unequivocal, that people just know that St. Pete is about that walkability. I'd like to be the first in poverty reduction. When we look at some of the struggles of South St. Pete and Midtown, I like to be first in having some of those innovative solutions there. I like to be first in transparent government and efficient government. I think that we've gotten spending kind of out of control in recent years. I know that's something that you've been critical of the last 8 years, but I think that we can be first place in that and just having this great servant's heart of having a civic activated community. I think that's one of the unique things about St. Pete, that especially as opposed to the rest of Florida, is that there's just an incredible civic pride here. People do love St. Pete, and some people are crazy enough to love it so much, like me, that they want to run for mayor. But I think those are some great examples of what we could do, and I'd like to really kind of look at us as being a leader in the 21st century, that St. Pete becomes one of those great American cities in the 21st century that's just iconic for the arts and for innovative solutions to things like professional baseball and keeping our pro sports teams here and just having this dynamic entrepreneurial community too. And that's one of the things that I think has been huge for my generation is these kind of older millennials. I like to consider myself the ones born in the early 80s, that we came back to do business here. And I want this to just be this greatest place in the world. It's the greatest place for me, but I want it to be clear to everybody else that it's just the greatest place in the world to grow up and do business in and raise a family and retire in and come to visit, have fun. And that's kind of what I mean by doing all that stuff. And I think it starts with having those lofty goals at the top from City Hall.
That's all great. And it reminds me of a couple things. One is for a long time, St. Pete wasn't a place that people said they loved so much, and it's really is pleasant that I think across the board now we're not only are we not insecure, but we're arrogant about St. Petersburg, and I think that's a good thing. I think love of your city is part of the quality of life of your city as well. So I think that's good. And then I'll just one last thing I'll say is that. In the 90s, we had this expression in the chamber that we wanted to build our city. We wanted to build a city our kids will move back to because it wasn't that way for decades. And I think we've succeeded in that. And it's good to see. And it's good to see somebody with such love for the city that is striving to become its mayor. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. Thank you for having the courage and the whatever else it is to jump into the ring for running for mayor. I wish you, nothing but great luck going forward, including on election day.
Thank you, and thank you for your service to the city as well. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice, and it's a real eye opener. And there's a lot of things that need to be done around here, and someone needs to get up and do them sometimes.
Thank you, Pete, and thank you all for watching this edition of My Mayor. Have a great day.